lovely day.
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
Dope-tastic. How are you guys doing today? What's up? Welcome to the Jared Cast. My name is Jared A. With me is my co-host, co-producer, Jared L. How you doing today,
Hello.
Jared?
I am good. I'm excited to be back. It may not seem like it to the audience, but we had a little hiatus. And I'm excited. I'm fucking talking about my favorite show. So how could I not be, you know?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching season 4 of Breaking Bad, which is the topic for today's episode. Yeah. And I'm excited to get into it. I've already in our hiatus, I've gone through the whole thing already up until El Camino. So I'll avoid getting into spoilers for season 5 if you're watching Breaking Bad along with us, which I don't think any of you are doing, but whatever.
My mom's actually rewatching it. She's seen it, but she's rewatching it with us. So maybe awesome. Others.
Hell yeah, that's cool. I really like that. Season 4 is this really over the top Western, and season 5 is this really over the top American opera, and I like it a lot. So I'm excited to get into season 4 though. But before that, we got an interesting little top 5.
We do, courtesy of you. But I'm going to be introing it. It's top 5 catchphrases, or I think we're including slogans in here. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. This was a tough one for me. I limited myself a lot because I've been slacking. You know, I'm always throwing in some barely applicable top 5s, and so I made it as hard on myself as I could. Nice. For such a simple topic. But I'm very curious to hear yours. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, my number 5 is kind of similar to my number 1, in that these started out as catchphrases within a TV show, and then they slowly bled into pop culture, and then now people just use it without even knowing where it's from. Which I love. I love it. I love that about this idea and about this whole thing. And that, of course, is from the show Parks and Recreation. It's the slogan by Tom Haverford and Donna. Treat yourself.
Right when you said Parks and Rec, I had a feel.
Yeah, man. Treat yourself. It's so good. It's one day a year that these two characters just ball out and buy whatever they feel like buying because it's Treat Yourself Day. And everybody has kind of treated this as people just say it now when they go shopping. Yeah. It's not even a holiday that people celebrate anymore. But what I like about it is that they from the first time that they do it to the last time that they do it in the show, it's more over the top as they go along. Like in the last season, they eat at this really high end restaurant where celebrities eat sushi from fish that they own. they're like, this is $150 for one piece. Treat yourself. It's great. It's entertaining, and it always puts a smile on my face when I just watch the clips on YouTube. I don't even watch the episodes.
Yeah.
My
number 5 also bled into American, especially linguistics, but in the worst possible way. And that's why it's only my number 5, because it's the most annoying fucking shit in the world when other people do it. And that's my wife from Borat.
I knew you would have it. I knew you would have it.
Yeah, it's hilarious when he does it, but all you kids out there need to cut this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a plague upon humanity. But you got to respect the influence. So I had to include it at number 5, but no higher because it's infuriating to me.
Oddly enough, my number 4 is also 2 words, and it also inspires a lot of half-baked impressions by individuals. It also comes from a comedy film. It's of course, yeah, baby. From the
Also, real annoying.
from the Austin Powers franchise. I actually have never seen 3, but yeah, but I love number 1. I've seen it probably 4 times, and it makes me laugh every time. Oh, behave! Barely missed my list as well.
Behave.
Or $1 million. Also barely missed my thing.
Yeah, I think $1 million is the most annoying to come out of the Austin Powers franchise.
Dude, my A-push teacher literally did this every time he said the word million.
Jesus.
He didn't do the voice, but he would look up at us
That's
to see
hilarious.
just to see if we got the reference. He'd go like,
Am I hip? Am I cool? That's awesome.
yeah.
Oh.
Shout
My
out
number
Mr. Doyle.
4. Yeah, shout out. My number 4 is not a franchise, but a cinematic universe that I dislike. But I actually really like this line. My limitations, by the way, I don't even think I said them, are it had to be from a movie, because I'm always bitching out and doing TV shows, even though these are TV show episodes, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it has to be repeated. And this one's fucking repeated. And that's I Am Groot. I love it. You can communicate so much just from inflection, and it shows the power of vocal tone. I love it. I think it was a super unique part of the films, and I think it's cool. I like it a lot. So it's my number 4.
Hell yeah. This is the first time that I've shouted out that you've shouted out Marvel and I haven't.
Yeah. And maybe the last.
Oh man, I love Groot. Shout out Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
My number 3, this show is also from a TV show, not a comedy one though. It's from a very serious show, but it still has this awesome catchphrase. What I love about TV catchphrases is like I always feel I never know when the catchphrase is coming. But when it does, I always feel like standing up in my couch and like applauding because I'm like, yeah, they brought it back.
Said it. You
some
said bazinga again.
Yeah. No.
You said it wasn't a comedy, so
Yeah. Oh man, I can't stand Big Bang Theory. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that's your favorite. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
But the craziest thing about Big Bang Theory that I learned though was like those laughs are all real. Like they shoot in front of a live.
Which is insane.
I don't get it.
Have you seen the show without it, with those edited out?
Oh yeah.
It's so weird.
That one and How I Met Your Mother, because it's edited. Like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's so cringy. Yeah. But this one is from a gangster show, a British gangster show called Peaky Blinders, and every time they say it, it's badass, it's menacing, and I love when Arthur says it, especially because he likes to growl. He's like, by order of the Peaky Blinders, and it's great. It's great. By order of the Peaky Blinders.
Hell yeah. One of those shows I haven't seen still. I'm just now realizing that 4 of my 5 are from comedies, including this one. We're sticking to the theme. This one kind of goes 2 ways. I wrote it with a with a blank in it because it's Party on Wayne and or Party on Garth from Wayne's World. It's just so wholesome. It's so like
Yeah.
friendly and nonchalant,
Yeah.
and it makes you smile. And so it's just a nice family friendly choice.
Party on, man. I love him. I love him.
You
We need more. We need a comeback for Dana Carvey too, man.
We
Where's
really
his
do.
comeback? Yeah.
He is so underused his entire career.
I don't know.
He's just been in the shadows. It's sad.
Did you ever watch the Dana Carvey show?
No.
It was like it was only around for like 10. It was a variety show, but it was only around for like 10 episodes. And they did a documentary about it, and it was like him, like freaking Stephen Colbert was there, Steve Carell was there.
Oh damn.
Louis C.K. was on the writing staff, was like the head writer. I think Bob Odenkirk was also writing on the show. It was
He
like
just writes for everything, and
Yeah.
nobody knows. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. But the first sketch they did, I shit you not, it's like like I don't know how they got away with it, but they basically Dana Carvey's doing his Bill Clinton impression, and then he's kind of wearing a fat suit, and you're like, why is he wearing a fat suit? And he opens up the suit, and it's a bunch of like artificial nipples that are squirting out real milk, and they get like 8 real puppies to drink milk out of his prosthetic
That's
nipples
amazing.
while he's just talking like Bill Clinton.
I need to watch it.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then yeah, so I really love that about yeah. Where am I at? Number 2?
Yeah, number 2. Give us a steaming number 2.
Oh, I've already gone on 2 different segues. I'm sorry. My number 2 is, of course, from Mad Max Fury Road. It's Witness Me. But what I love about this is that it kind of starts out as this kind of like blood-curdling warrior cry that Nux yells out when he watches his brother do like a suicide bomb type thing. And it's intimidating, it's crazy, it's wacky, it's everything that Mad Max Fury Road is. But when Nux is redeemed later on, and he sacrifices himself at the end of the movie to save the group, those are his last words again. Witness me. So it's I think it's beautiful. I think it's poetic the way it's used throughout the entire film.
Hell yeah, dude. Wouldn't be an episode if you're not shouting out Mad Max. It's on the list. You've got to hit one of a few in order to appease the people.
Yeah. What's yours? That I can't think of one that you always do. Fincher?
Pokemon for some reason.
That's
Even
right.
though
That's
I'm
right.
not a big Pokemon fan. And so my number 2 is Pikachu. Spoken by... I'm just kidding. Can you imagine?
I thought it was for a second.
No, it wasn't. That'd be hilarious, though. My number 2 is actually a serious one. Hint, hint. A very scary one, a very intimidating one, said by one of the most cliche but also greatest villains. That's Heath Ledger's Joker with Why
okay.
So Serious.
Nice.
This one's mostly for a bit on my list, which will come to fruition on my next pick. But I also love it a lot. It's great. It's scary. Every single time he says it, you know a motherfucker's about to die. And I like it a lot. It's terrifying. It scared my little bitch ass in a movie theater. So
Yes.
yeah, number 2.
Dude, the Halloween in 2008 was full of so many jokers trying to
It
say
really
that line.
was. And butchering it every time. This is our top 5 lines that are butchered by the general public.
Yep. No, excellent choice. Excellent choice. I love
sir.
that line. My number 1 is equally cliche, but is I think even more ubiquitous because it's one of those jokes joke lines that like never fails in any social situation. You can use
I
it
think
in,
I know it. Yeah,
you
I
could
think
use
I
it
know
at the
where this is
bank.
going.
You could use it in church. You could use it at the gas station. You could use it in a baseball game. I don't know what you guys do for fun. But of course, it's from The Office, Michael Scott's famous bit.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
What? Also has a Parks and Rec syndrome where people forget that it's like from a show.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I love that that it's endured this whole time, and that you know, uh, as the kind of new generation of Office fans emerged on Netflix, like it kind of went back into the thing, because I remember using it a lot in grade school, and then but like not that many people watched The Office back then, and then when more people started watching, I was like, oh shit, okay, cool, this is awesome. People are saying this again.
Yeah. We're getting on a lot of tangents, but I'm gonna get on another. On the flight back, I saw two of the kids that like just pissed me off with their TV and movie habits on the flight. Because one motherfucker had The Office on like the in-flight screen, and then was playing a game on her phone. And on her phone, she had the screen within a screen and was watching Friends. And it was the most insane shit I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And even more insane, arguably, the kid in front of me watched Bumblebee 3 times in a row. Which is wild. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I like Bumblebee, but I'm not like.
Would you watch any movie 3 times
No, I
back
would
to back to back?
Not back to back to back. No, that's
It's
insane.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really judge because I watched 7 hours of Breaking Bad on that flight. So I had to catch up somehow. Anyways, my number 2 asked the question, why so serious? Number 1 answers the question with, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. It's great. It's one of my favorite movie lines of all time. It's probably one of the funniest lines in TV or movie history, if you had to just pick one line out.
Yeah.
He does repeat it, I think, like 2 or 3 times, so it barely qualifies. I love it. It's fantastic. Everything he says is great. Every single line. And the airplane is always gonna have a special place in my heart. So that's my number 1.
Wasn't that Leslie Nielsen's first like comedic performance?
I think so. And he fucking nailed it. Because he's just so deadpan the whole time.
Exactly.
That it doesn't matter. You ever seen a grown man naked?
Oh man. Still to this day, like the one that like makes me like laugh but also roll my eyes is like, we need to take some photos, and then the journalists take photos off the wall.
Yeah. Every single line of that movie is just like, I hate that it's so funny.
Don't worry, they've got all the right instruments.
Like, you know, they wrote it and they're like, okay, what's the funniest thing we can say right here? And they're like, okay, now what's better than that? And then like, now let's just make that happen for every single line.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. While I was waiting in the airport, it was weird to like have that movie in mind during flights, because it always is. But when you're waiting, they kept doing like the announcements in the airport. And I remember the underrated like background noise of, there is only loading in the white zone. And that whole bit, it was great. That was all I could think about. I was like giggling to myself in an airport like a freak.
Oh man, that's brilliant. Yeah. Good list, Jared. Good list. I like
You
your
too,
list.
Jared. You know what else is brilliant? Season 4 of Breaking Bad. Unfortunately, not everybody agrees in this episode of Jared Reads Poorly Written Reviews of TV shows that we're watching because it's funny and it makes them laugh and stuff.
Cool.
reviews. Yeah. You remember this time.
I did, and I dropped the ball last week, so I got 2 hot and spicy boys on a dinner plate for you right here. The first one's real short, but I like torturing myself and reading illegible reviews, and so here's another one. This one comes from Arborabera, giving it a 1 out of 10 in February of 2021. Both of these are 2021 reviews, so it's some hot shit.
Yeah.
The title of this review is "You May Have a Degree, but Still Dumb. It May be overhyped, but it's world dumbest show ever." Wish me luck. And there's one period at the end. That's the only punctuation. Just a heads up.
Oh, good.
I have watched many series. It's the worst series I have ever saw. Boring storyline, boring plot, boring sleepy, no character development. In short, overrated series. Sometimes it create doubt to believe this rating.
Oh man, I cannot
Agreed. Like, why make it? Just why? Oh, and then the original one, before I stumbled upon that gem and had to include it, is by nobody, but with a 0 in the second O. Giving it a 1 out of 10, saying, "I don't get it." I am evidently in the minority here, but I will never understand the hype around this show. It is incredibly boring. I know it's drama, not an action, but it's got cartels, gangs, drugs, DEA, undercover operations. It has so many avenues to inject some excitement into it, but instead it's the most boring show ever created, which when coupled with the fact that there isn't a single likable character in the entire show, every single one of them are hateful, insufferable, irredeemable, stupid, and just awful human beings. Unbearable characters being melodramatic and arguing over everything under the sun with nothing happening just doesn't do much for me personally. That's it.
Damn. No. How can anybody go through this thing hating Jesse? I don't.
Right? Or say that nothing's happening. There's a train robbery next season. How many shows are doing train robberies?
I don't know, man.
Oh, no,
Amazing.
It's crazy. So we're gonna talk about the nothing that happens. Still talking Breaking Bad, and surprise, surprise, I still love it. Yeah, this is a very good season. It's probably my second favorite. I think they just go up barely in quality each time. They already start real high and they keep that momentum going. This one has one of the best Jesse arcs in the whole series. Marie gets super interesting this season. Skylar becomes a criminal this season.
Yes.
Walt has like his biggest challenge yet and has to like actually put some effort into outwitting people for once. Gus is a fucking psychomaniac and I love it. Mike is a badass. You get Bill Burr cameos. Like, what's not to fucking love this season? It's awesome. It's got relentless pace, but it's got great characters. It's got some amazing just dialogue scenes. The one that jumps out is the Problem Dog episode with the rehab scene. Like it does slow and fast so well. Cinematography, they get weird with it this season, especially. This is the let's attach a camera to that for a POV shot season. And I love it. The color's tight, the editing's tight, the sound design's tight. Everything's fucking great. I'm gonna give it a 9.9.
Oh, wow.
Just missing a perfect score because rewatching it, I think the episode Open House has some filler, and it's not even the Marie stuff. I think everything else kind of drags that episode down. And so, like, besides just a couple sleeper moments in that episode, it's a perfect season. So I had to barely miss the 10 for this one. But it's basically a 10 for me. What do you think though? First time watcher?
First time watcher, I loved it. I think this is the kind of show that I was looking forward to when I was going into Breaking Bad. And I started with I think 8.8, and then I went to 8.9 for season 2, 9.1 for season 3. This jumped up a full quite a few points for me. I think I love the way it builds like a Western movie. A lot of my stuff is structure. A lot of the stuff I want to talk about is the structure in this one. I think Bryan Cranston is absolute magic in this. Aaron Paul won the only Emmy for this year and for the year that this came out, and he absolutely deserved it. I'll get into why later. I like that he's kind of pushed to the breaking point. Vince Gilligan described season 4 as like a 13 episode chess game. I think that's a great way of doing it. And I like the theme of pride in Walt and in Hank and in Gus, kind of examined in very different but all equally compelling ways. I think you're right about Marie and Skyler. Like the way that Marie's kleptomania is portrayed in this is, I think, way better than season 1 and season 2.
Yeah, it kind of pays off the lackluster setups from earlier.
Yeah, and it makes me feel like so. It's just so like a nice way of like showing her and Hank's relationship. Like, maybe like. Maybe the only thing Walt needed to stop going too far or stop crossing all those lines was just another Hank in his life because like Hank is the only one really holding her back from destroying her life. And at the same time, it's great to see her kind of stretch and learn to take care of him and learn to figure out how to deal with this guy who's a shadow of himself. I like also Skyler, like dealing with pride and like self-accomplishment, but like at the same time, the show is like, no, this is evil what she's doing as well. Like it doesn't matter that it doesn't matter that it's necessary. It doesn't matter that she's trapped. There are going to be real consequences that result from these actions that she's doing. I think a couple things that that maybe took it away from a 10 for me. Where I actually didn't mind the pacing in Open House. The pacing in Cornered was what got me. That episode kicks ass. It's amazing. It's slow, but it's good. You got the "I am the one who knocks" thing.
Yeah,
but
the legendary monologue.
Yeah, but I think you could cut out the entire sequence with him getting the immigrant women in trouble. I didn't feel like it was any. I think it's there to show Walt and Gus butting heads, and Walt trying to defy him, and Gus kind of being the all-seeing eye and taking away that win for Walt. But it's still kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel like it was necessary. There's so many other.
I think I defend it a little bit more because it also shows Jesse's usefulness to Walt that he doesn't realize.
Right.
Because he's obviously there helping Mike. And so I like it a bit for that because Walt's in such denial that Jesse's even a part of this thing. And so it kind of knocks him down a peg, which I like. But I definitely see where you're coming from, and I wouldn't really miss it with it leaving.
Yeah, and that's true. But at the same time, there's the scene with the forklift when Tyrus uses he's like, I can't use the forklift, and Tyrus just uses the forklift. They still haven't really figured out how to use the yellow filter in a way that's cool. I think
they do a better job this season a little bit. Like they kind of just take it off halfway through the season. Which is nice. But
and like I think I would have liked, even if they took out that scene of him with the cleaning people, maybe they could have had room to develop Tyrus, or just like give me a little more about that character.
Yeah, I don't give two shits about Tyrus.
Yeah,
at all.
And like, he's basically just a placeholder for Victor, which
Yeah.
Victor I got. Victor's a loyal like bodyguard. Like he cares about,
Yeah.
and you can tell that he cares about Gus. He cares about what Gus thinks about him, and he fears
Who's
Gus at the
also
same time.
trying to earn a higher place, which we see in the first episode when he's like, "I can cook this recipe, bitch. Like, let me." Yeah. So it's he's an interesting one, but Tyrus can fuck off.
Yeah, and then a couple, and then one more was the two detectives. I think they're properly portrayed as douchebags, but I don't think there's any effort in the performance. I think they just kind of took guys with douchey faces, and that's not their fault. It is both of them and the director's fault for that episode. I think, especially when you're sitting across the table from someone like Aaron Paul. You got to really step up your game. You can't just be a stock character.
Yeah, you stand out when you're not up to that level.
Yeah, but like my critiques for the previous seasons, these are mostly nitpicks, especially for season 3, which most of my stuff was nitpicks for that as well. I absolutely loved season 4. I thought it was brilliant. I think you can just watch. You should watch seasons 1 through 3, but just rewatching season 4 as like this grand American Western that's very modern and very brilliant and very tense. I got to give it a 9.7. So we're jumping up a full 0.6 points from season 3.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic season, and I don't know how anybody could possibly disagree. Even the creators of the show go back and forth whether this or the next one's their favorite.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of common across the board. I think you even texted me. You're like, I don't know which one I like more out of 4 and 5. When you watched it too. Yeah, you mentioned in your little recap, your off the top review, one of the big themes, and I think we could just jump right into that, and that's pride. It really centers around the 3 characters and 3 of the main characters, and it ends up being kind of a downfall for each of them. That's Hank, Gus, and Walt especially. But you could extend this to Skyler, like you said, or even Jesse, trying to take pride in himself after what he's done. And it's great. I love it. It ties each arc together super well. You see pride being the downfall of Gus, obviously leading to his death directly, wanting to be the one to kill Hector, even though he definitely doesn't need to. You see Walt almost lose Jesse to Gus because of his pride. And obviously Hank pushing away Marie and ruining his entire home life because of it. It's fantastic. It's super well done. And it's a nice through line between all of them. In a show that kind of has these separate branches, they stick to the root of the tree super well with things like this. It's delightful. I guess we could start with Hank because he's kind of the furthest removed, I guess. But what'd you think of his pride storyline?
Dude, this arc for Hank in season 4 is exactly what I was, not exactly, but what I was hoping and what I was anticipating for the character, even way back in season 1. This guy who like is a D-bag and like says a lot of casual racism and like and is like kind of rude to his family members, gets completely broken down by the first episode of season 4, and his pride is destroyed. His pride as an agent of the DEA, his pride as a man, and as a provider for his family, as a and that's not a chauvinistic thing. It's like he really does care for Marie and he wants to like watch out for her, but he can't because he's stuck to his bed and he can't even take a dump on his own. What I like is that he kind of this is his turning point. This is his resurrection. This is kind of where he becomes the hero that he wants to be in season 1. And so because he's so broken down, because his pride is all destroyed, he's able to earn every single clue that he gets, every single connection that he makes between Gus and between Heisenberg and between Gale and between the drug trade. Like, it's all just him, just kind of scraping by tooth and nail for every single thing, and it's so satisfying to see him get the credit for all of this stuff, because he starts at his lowest point in the show, and he like he's the kind of person that needs an obsession, and so he's able, when he finds a means to fulfill that obsession, like it really is super satisfying as a day one Hank stan, for sure.
Yeah, it's so cool to see him, like, because of his bodily limitations. Like, he has to be like all mental game. He's like, I'm gonna sit down with this stack of papers and that's it. Like, he doesn't have the ability to go out and like shake down some biker thugs in a bar or like do shit like that. Like, it's all, he's forced to work around his limits, and it's so good. You respect him as a detective. You're like, oh, this is why you're in like such a high position, and it's not just because you're a charismatic douche nozzle. It's because you got a little bit of a peanut in there, and it's fantastic. The thing with his minerals, it took me a couple watches to really appreciate. But I think you nailed it when you said he needs an obsession. He needs to fill the void for work, and Marie's not quite cutting it, and he doesn't give two shits about his PT for most of the season. And so he just turns to looking at rocks. And I think it's a cool parallel with Walt's background and like crystallography and shit like that. So there's nice parallels there too. It gives them nice bonding moments that like Walt has to figure out ways around. So I was like, this is kind of dumb. He just likes rocks, whatever. But now that I've like kind of dug my teeth in more, the more times I watch this, I'm a fan, and I think it pays off. And I think it's a cool little character quirk to give him during this time.
Definitely. I also love it when he's revealing the fingerprints that he got off of Gus that link him to Gale. He like does the dramatic pause and holds up his cane, like his handicap is like the thing.
Guy.
It's so cool.
It's fucking badass. Yeah, Hank's got a great arc this season. Next season he's just as badass. I love it. He's got one of the best arcs in the whole show. Him and Jesse honestly have some of the best transformations, and I like it a lot. But he's not the only one with a pride issue. We also got Gus. Gus, who is seemingly unstoppable due to his insane intelligence and how careful he is and how manipulative he is. Especially this season. He does shit like staging robberies to make Jesse feel useful, to make him turn against Walt. Like, it goes so deep and everything's so like puppet mastery. I love it. But he's got one weakness, and that's his pride and his willingness to gloat to one Hector Salamanca in what is probably the best death scene in the entire show. But leading up to that, what do you think of his pride arc?
It's really interesting, and I think it kind of takes him over that. Besides, Walt, I think you are like, now that we've seen Gus's whole thing, like I agree that he's the best villain in the show besides Walt. But because this hypocrisy and this contradiction with like internally makes him more interesting. And makes me want to learn more about him. Like, why does, what's the guy's name? Michael? What's his brother's name?
Mike Erbintrout. Oh, his like murdered brother.
Yeah.
I don't remember actually. They say it like in one scene. I'll look it up while you finish though.
Yeah, he even names Gale's scholarship after that guy that was
Yeah.
killed, and which leads a lot of people to speculate that Gus was that Gus and that guy were lovers. I think that's very well possible, and I really love that they show us in the episode Hermanos.
Yeah.
The really awesome flashback between him and the Don of the cartel, and
Max Archanigia? Archaniga? I don't know.
Max.
Max.
Yeah, right after Max dies, like I really appreciate that, like they show Gus at his low point and his turning point, and and kind of his how we see a little nuggets of it beforehand when you're right, when he's taunting Hector, that his business mindset, his business first mindset, which motivates him to spare Walt and Jesse and to kill Victor and to motivate him to target Hank. All of that is hindered by his desire for revenge and the kind of blood for blood attitude that he criticizes Hector for. It eventually becomes his undoing, which but I understand why he would do that after seeing that flashback. It also is interesting that it's also a really cool reveal because Walt doesn't know it yet, and then when you find out, or when Walt finds out about it, you're like, oh, okay, so now Walt can use this to exploit Gus.
Yeah.
And actually, it's really cool. I was a little disappointed that I don't know about what happened in Chile, but it's okay. The basic idea is that he came from privilege, and then he was brought to a really low point of absolute despair, and then he became a monster. And I think it's absolutely perfect. The killing of all the Dons with a blue bottle of tequila, I thought was really, really cool. I love Gus.
Yeah, he really comes into his own this season because of that kind of chess game mentality they took toward the season, which we'll get more into detail on that soon. But yeah, he's incredible. The origin story part's great because you don't expect to see like a nubile innocent Gus being like, I just want to make a little extra cash on the side. What he turns into is just fantastic. Seeing that origin is incredible, and I'm so glad they did it. And also, Hermanos might be the best, well, maybe second best episode title, because you get the arc with Hank and Walt, who are brothers, and they're investigating Hermanos, Pollos Hermanos. It's just a great title, all around simple yet effective. And then there's Walt and his pride, which throughout the whole thing, the whole series, has always been a downfall. It's one of the reasons he cooks meth to begin with. Yes. Namely, in this season, it turns up when he edges Hank along the chase, saying, "Oh, he's so probably just a bitch ass copycat. The real genius is still out there. Am I right? Like, you have it out, dude. Just get there." But it's great character development. Like, it is what he would do because he's a narcissistic dickbag.
Yeah.
And I love it a lot. But what do you think of his prideful moments?
Oh my god, dude! That's in episode 5, Shotgun. I was so mad. I almost threw my salami at the TV. I was like, this is making me pissed. But I, because I don't know. I don't understand why people root for Walt.
You're good. You're fine. Just accept the win.
Yeah, is this I don't remember. Never mind. That's next season, my bad.
Okay.
But yeah, I like that he that he has to recognize that his pride is getting in the way, and but rather than fix it, rather than get out of that, he kind of goes rogue and goes solo, crossing a line of hurting a child, while at the same time doing all the other behaviors that he's been doing, manipulating Jesse, manipulating Skylar, manipulating the DEA and his brother, and he's especially from Crawl Space on, it's when he stops resisting the Heisenberg persona and starts taking pride in that and in his ability to do that. When he says the words "I won" at the very end, it's it's a monster movie from here on out.
That Crawl Space ending is like literally his Joker moment. Like it's so fucking good, but it's such a hard turning point.
A lot of fans cite that as the death of Walt and the birth of Heisenberg as a fully realized persona and personality. Not that Walt has different personalities, because he doesn't. But he's kind of embraced the fact that he wants to be the bad guy, and I really think it's so good. I was kind of watching this at the same time that I was visiting some episodes of Malcolm in the Middle on Hulu. So it's really awesome to kind of see
both fantastic fucking shows.
Yeah. So it's really awesome to see Bryan Cranston do all this stuff, and he's a new level of asshole every season, but I just can't take my eyes off of him. I don't know why.
It's that slimy body he keeps showing up.
I don't know why fans rooted for him this far into the show. I kind of stopped rooting for him in season, maybe early season 2. As soon as he was like, "No, I want 4 pounds of meth," I'm like, "Come on, dude." When he was talking to Tuco in the junkyard,
insufferable.
It's the scene in the junkyard, I think, was when I stopped rooting for Walt.
Jesse's face alone sums it up, and it's kind of when you're supposed to switch sides to be on Jesse's side with these. Because Jesse's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? We just escaped death, and now you want to just throw us right back in." But that's what he does. That's just how he is. He's thirsty for more constantly. It's delightful.
I also like that his pride is rooted, or the root of his desire for Jesse's loyalty is rooted in pride as well.
Yeah. Which is a great transition to what I was gonna say. It's this episode, this season, another big theme is the manipulation of loyalty, and how that kind of applies to the chess game we keep bringing up. Yes. It really is Walt and Gus, and they both know that Jesse's the key, and whoever has Jesse on their side wins. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. No matter which way you kind of shape it up. And it's great. Both are willing to go to crazy lengths for it. Obviously, the poisoning of Brock is a huge moment, and one of the best reveals in TV. That slow push on the potted plant, is so good. And you forget because they hint at it before. When he's spinning the gun in his backyard and it's pointing at him, and then it points at that potted plant, but you don't think anything of it because they just cut away. But it's so well done and cleverly executed. But that push in is absolutely insane. I love it a lot. But the season really revolves around. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, initially when they did the spin the gun thing, I thought he was gonna make a bomb out of fertilizer, but what it really was way better,
much better. Yeah. And it's not something that you would catch on to unless you're that's Lily of the Valley in that plant. I know
all the botanists.
The botany crowd was infuriated they made it so obvious. But no, it's an amazing ending to that manipulation of loyalty and that victory that Walt narrowly earns. It's delightful. I love it. The whole chess game is fantastic. I love the dynamic between Mike and Jesse because it mirrors the father-son dynamic that Walt and Jesse has. But I think it comes down to the fact that Gus wasn't the guy who like took Jesse in. It was Mike at the end of the day, and so I think that kept Jesse loyal to Walt and kind of helped teeter that scale over a bit more. But the battle of wits and just like manipulation is insane this season. What do you think?
I thought it was beautifully written. I even like, I think it's in Problem Dog as well, but it's in the beginning of Problem Dog. Jesse's kind of painting his walls white and trying to erase his guilt.
Yeah.
And in that scene, he's on top of the ladder. He has this bird's eye view of Walt as Walt is trying to manipulate him. And he knows Walt is trying to manipulate him. And that's the kind of twisted thing, is like he's aware of the toxicity and the abuse in their relationship, but he can't really break out of it because he's trapped in this vicious cycle where he relies on Walt's intellect. He relies on Walt's abilities. He relies on the fact that he assumes that Walt cares a little bit about him, enough to save his life. And I don't know. It's really, really sad, and of course it makes me love Jesse all the more because and that leads to some of my favorite, that scene leads to some of my favorite moments in Problem Dog. But as far as like the chess game over there, over Jesse, I think you hit the nail on the head with it. It's beautiful. Of the the three big factors that went into my enjoyment for this season, Gus's inner conflict, Hank's resurrection. The third thing was the Mike and Jesse pairing. I think it was absolutely genius. Their relationship kind of starts in season 2 with Mike slapping Jesse and coaching him to talk to the police, and then now they're standing together. They're standing side by side. And even in the end, by episode 10, Jesse's carrying him. He's carrying him to safety. He's making sure that Mike is okay. And it's still not healthy because Mike is knowingly putting Jesse in danger to serve Gus. But the shotgun episode and just the chemistry between the characters is entirely different. I think it showcases Aaron Paul's acting ability to be just a great scene partner for all these charismatic guys, whether it's Bryan Cranston or Giancarlo Esposito or Jonathan Banks. I think putting them together in a car was absolutely brilliant for the episode Shotgun. And I like that they pair that they juxtapose that pairing with Walt and Walt Jr. When they finally get their scenes together in that episode as well.
After like a season and a half too, like they split up pretty hard, Walt and Jr. It's pretty insane.
Yes. And I think this manipulation also it leads to where is it? What episode is it? Oh, in Bug, when Walt and Jesse get into a fist fight. I think that was a beautiful action sequence because it was so painful to watch and so like raw and real, and like I remember laughing when they were kicking each other to get to the meth in season 1. And that scene in comparison is just so much more heavy hitting and so much, but still equally like floundering and incompetent and frustrating.
Yeah, that fight is a fantastic culmination of their relationship this season, where it's loyalty without trust or without respect.
Yes.
And so just like the fight is so sloppy that it works so well with the characters. I love it. Before we progress, though, you said the magic word of Walt Jr., which means it's time for the breakfast counter. There's 4 this season, if you
Ooh.
include a cup of coffee, which Walter clearly does not enjoy, but he's trying to be a man.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I think that brings us to 17. I'll do the official counter next episode. I didn't write the total for some reason. But yeah, there's also a fun fact. There's I forget which one, but it's the episode he turned 16, where his mom, for some reason, asks him lunch or breakfast, which is an insane question to ask them.
That's
Clearly he's
Skylar's
picking those
real
pancakes.
worst moment.
Yeah, that's her worst moment. Yeah. Anyway, that's the breakfast counter for this season.
Good. I'll tell you, Jesse's worst moment was in Box Cutter. He didn't put any butter on his pancakes.
Yeah,
He
insane.
just put syrup.
Gross.
I was like,
What
what's
an
wrong
animal.
with you, dude?
Oh, we can. That's a good pivot to what a scene that people hate with Skylar. They think it's the worst scene in the whole show. Some people, not when I say they, I'm saying I've seen critiques, and that's
I
her
know which
little bimbo scene when she's talking Ted out of trouble with the IRS. I really like it. I think
Yeah.
it's great. I think it shows her willingness to commit, her cunning, and how she can manipulate men who are used to manipulating her so well.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I don't get the hate for it at all. But we also both loved Fly, so is that any surprise?
I think that scene is how most of the male viewers see Skylar. Like in the whole
They're
show.
like, she's just like
Yeah.
that. What do you?
Oh man. Yeah, like I thought it was actually really funny. I agree. I like this
yeah.
scene.
And it's a good representation of her this season because she comes
Yeah.
into her own. She's like useful as a criminal now. It's fantastic.
And
ever
Ted's
since
like
she's-
trying really hard not to look at her boobs. It's
Yeah. And the second the dude's like, oh, I get what's going on here.
yeah.
It's fantastic. Fuck Ted, by the way. Ted's
Dude.
a fucking piece of shit who deserved everything he got.
I don't know how you could write a character that stupid and get away with it. Like that's just a pure magic trick by Vince Gilligan. I don't get it at all. Because that was episode 9, right? And episode
I think so.
episode 11 is when he breaks his neck.
Yeah. On a carpet. Yeah. I guess while we're talking about side characters, did you expect a Bill Burr appearance in this show? Was that spoiled for you?
I knew he was in it. I didn't know who he played, and I didn't know when he would come in. So
Gotcha.
when he did, he's like, when Saul's like, I got my A-team working on it. And then they just cut to Bill Burr, and I'm like, what? This is amazing.
Yeah. It's a great reveal. And I know you're a big Bill Burr fan, so I was excited for you to get to that moment.
Dude, I was literally just listening to the Monday morning podcast this morning.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love Bill Burr. I think there's not a whole lot when you compare him to the rest of the cast in this thing.
Yeah, there's not a lot of meat to it, but it's a cool character.
Yeah, and it's a cool start for him too, because like I don't think it was his first movie role, but I think the first time like mainstream audiences started seeing him and stuff, and they was like, oh wait, that's the guy in Breaking Bad, and then now he's doing all these cool new projects and he's in all these movies. So I appreciate this point in his career as well.
Him and Huel make a great pair too.
Dude, they're so funny.
They're a good dynamic. Huel's just so great. Huel, you happy? Goose. Yeah, it's delightful.
Yeah, I love that Huel becomes a bodyguard and he's like, you can barely like stand up.
Yeah, you're not gonna be able to chase anyone or anything.
No.
That's great. He has a moment. My favorite moment of his is in season 5, which you might be able to guess now, but we won't talk about it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. We could go back to the meat of the season. Another favorite aspect of mine is Jesse's art.
Yes.
It's fantastic. You get some amazing set design too with him slowly turning his house into a crack den so he doesn't have to face the consequences of his actions.
Yeah.
Paired with the painting scene that you mentioned earlier, it's great. They say a lot, even in just montages of a Roomba going around a fucking room. It's super well done. I've been a fan of his arc since day one. I think I put him as number one of my sidekicks, and this season shows why. I just love every direction they take him.
Yes.
It's fantastic. And yeah, what you think of Jesse this season?
As sad as it makes me, I always rejoice when the writers give Jesse self-destructive behaviors because it's just so interesting to watch. I think Aaron Paul delights in playing it. And I think it's really, really cool to kind of see that guilt manifest on the outside. You know, you think that, but in season 3, he purchases that house as a sign that, like, okay, now I've got my shit together. You know,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden he ruins that house again when he commits this heinous crime at the very end of season 3 and deals with the consequences immediately after and sees a random guy get his throat slit because of what he did. He on top of that doesn't suffer any consequences. He can't lose his money no matter how hard he tries. He's like, I just like he lets it get stolen, and he's like, I don't care. But then he gets the money back immediately. He can't even suffer properly because of his situation.
And the fact that he doesn't own up to what he did or like acknowledge it at all for 7 episodes until like Problem Dog when he tells the story about putting the dog down. It's crazy that they had the balls to like drag it out so long, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, and it's even though he's repaired his house, he's kind of destroyed this other house, this other home for him, by burning the bridges with the AA group, with the support group. He no longer has that to fall back on, and so it's only downhill from here for Jesse. Even though he kind of he gets to experience a little bit of a win at the very end of the season, it's still like no, he's lost his last positive influence. I did like that. I feel like, I don't know. I know Saul's like a money grubbing like lawyer. You know, that's kind of his role the entire series. But I have a feeling that he roots for Jesse as well because of the way he kind of like eggs him on to check on Andrea himself.
Yeah.
I thought that was really sweet and surprising. And yeah, like a lot of great surprises for Jesse's character in this season, especially in the last 2 episodes where, you know, he's pushed his breaking point and then immediately bounces back when he realizes, or when Walt lies to him and tells him and blames Gus for Brock's thing.
Yeah. And even like the little storyline with Gus trying to make him feel useful and give him purpose. It's great because you get the payoff of him actually being useful to Gus or to whoever he's loyal with at the time, with like the tweaker house where he tricks the meth head to dig the hole, which is great.
Yeah.
And just moments like that, you're like, yeah, he's a real helpful guy. He just has a lot of problems that are in his way. And usually that self-destructive behavior you mentioned. Yeah, he's fantastic this season. He's super well written, obviously well performed. Like that Problem Dog rehab scene's fantastic. His face-offs with Walt are fantastic. Pretty much everything he does is he kills it this season, and that little Emmy is worth every cent.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy that like I take for granted like how rich his arc is in this thing, because he does all of those things, and then on top of that, he has the thing with where he's teaching the real chemists how to make meth, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like he's really like it's
and
so
talking mad shit while doing it.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Like the fact that he got to 96% on his own, like and I think in season 5 his meth gets even more pure. And it's really, really cool. I also like that the better he gets at cooking meth, the worse his life gets. I think that's such an amazing way of showing this character's journey.
Yeah. Isn't it so weird to look back on him like stumbling out of the roof after cooking with chili powder? Like it's such a weird path we follow him down.
Yeah.
But it's such a great one. It's such a rewarding one to see.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite brooding Jesse moment in this season?
This season?
Yeah. So before episode 7.
His head against the speaker on full volume.
Yeah.
I think it's like episode 1 or 2. It's real early.
Yeah.
It's intense. And you really see the fucking pain in every fiber of his being there. And it's super good. It's great. I love it. What about you?
I'm tied with that.
Him angrily playing a Mario Kart knockoff.
No. I think it was a tie between that one and the go-kart thing.
Yeah. I love that even like the simple thing of him like turning to nostalgia to like feel something and distract himself is fantastic. Yeah, it's so good. I love it. They did him justice this season for sure.
Definitely.
We can talk structure. Another theme I had was paranoia and powerlessness, which we kind of touched on. It's mostly in the cinematography and the stuff with like the camera and how it connects to the bear's eye, and how that bear that's half its face blown off also kind of mirrors Gus's at the end of this season.
Yeah.
That's kind of all I had for it. They don't really go too in depth with the paranoia, except for on Walt's end, who kind of is losing his mind this whole season.
Yeah.
But if you want to touch on that before we go into the structure, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of interpreted the keeping the bear's eye as like a symbol of guilt for Walt, but it like looking back on it now, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's a foreshadow of like a kind of like all-seeing eye of the idea that like, you know,
which also ties into the guilt, like that he's
because of everything that he's done, he's put under this microscope that Gus has him under, you know. He wants so badly to be the cowboy. And to be the
great Alba. Shout out Mitski.
I was thinking like, which cowboy is it? Okay, yeah. Yeah, like I love that he sees himself as the cowboy, not the bandit. And but to everyone else, he's the bandit, and so that's why Gus kind of has to keep him within these really like tight on this really tight leash. And I love how that paranoia is plays out in Walt's behavior, and how it kind of it's weird that or it's not weird. It's interesting that he's so paranoid about what Gus might do, but he's so loose about what Hank might do. because he's so arrogant. He thinks he's so much smarter than Hank that he straight up
Yeah.
gives Hank hints. But then he never he's so scared of Gus because he can't fight Gus for some reason.
Yeah.
I love that about this season.
Mm-hmm. Plus, like with the shots with the camera, it's so simple, but the fact that they actually used the footage from that security camera is way better. Most directors would just put a camera vaguely that high and be like, "Yeah, here's the security camera footage." But like the fact that they use that camera, it just makes it feel more grounded, and you feel like you're spying on him the way Gus is.
Yeah,
it's simple, but it's super effective. And I think that kind of sums up the cinematography this whole season.
yeah.
I know you're.
Oh, sorry.
Go for
I was
it.
just gonna say the way they reveal it with the sound effect too was really cool.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
it's super tight. And it also kind of mirrors the Fly episode, which is cool because you get those POV shots earlier in the series. Just great shit. They tie back to every little detail throughout every single episode. And I think that's what makes it feel so cohesive in a whole by the end of it.
Yeah.
Although I know you're dying to talk Western structure because you're a little Western nerd. So I'm just going to let you lead off on this and start from scratch on this one. Tell us about that.
Yeah. A lot of traditional Westerns kind of build towards this inevitable and explosive finale that always that if you're a good Western director, a good Western filmmaker, feels surprising even when it happens. I love the kind of there's a bunch of, we talked about cinematography with Paranoia, but there's a lot of cinematography that alludes to the Western cinema. When he puts on the hat and the camera follows him and from behind. When the camera, when you have these like really awesome wides of the landscape that and show kind of that show Walt's and show Jesse's and shows and even sometimes Mike, it shows their kind of insignificance in the face of the desert and in the face of the open West.
That shot of Walt getting fired and him like clapping back, and you see the cloud literally start from off screen and pass them entirely in time with his speech with the light and dark is fucking incredible. It's like one of the best shots the whole season. Or series.
Yeah. I love that there's two sides, two internal struggles, one between Walt and himself, one between Gus and himself, that builds to this explosive that builds to that explosive scene where he threatens to kill Walt's family. I think it's I think it that and then from there on out, it's just great cause and effect writing, cause, effect, and then the best death scene of all Breaking Bad history. I also really I enjoy the use of the music in this season. There's a lot of electric guitars, a lot of slow droning stuff. So like a lot of modern music in there as well. Like it's not all that, but like I said before, like the best Westerns feel end with an ending that feels inevitable but still surprising, and I think that plays a lot into the satisfaction that you feel when Walt wins. Even though you don't like Walt, or even though I don't like Walt, like I still feel like, man, I'm satisfied by that. That was a good full course meal.
Yeah, and I know you had that ending of Gus getting his face blown the fuck off. I think for first time watchers of the show, usually the initial love of it comes from thinking he survives until the camera pans around or until you see the nurse's reaction. But what do you think of that death already, having seen that scene in isolation?
First of all, I'm a sucker for good gore, and that's really
Some of the best
amazing.
prosthetics you ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the behind the scenes. They got like Walking Dead people to help them with it, and they
Yeah.
did a mix of. I think some of the best visual effects that you see, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars or Mad Max, a lot of their best effects in those movies come from a combination of both CGI and prosthetic, and
Yeah.
I love that the bone and the charred flesh around the bone feel like it looks real because it is real. It is actually there, but the CGI shows the root of his eye still
Yeah, the
moving
optic
underneath.
nerve moving with his.
Yeah,
It's
like
insane.
oh my god, that was so good. And straightening his tie too. I like that a lot. That he still kind of has this external
Yeah,
business
gotta
first
put on
thing.
my show of professionalism here.
Exactly. I think it's great, and I there were like a lot of the big surprises that I personally thought were amazing come in season 5, which is the one that I knew the least about. So it didn't take away from my enjoyment knowing what would happen at the end of season 4. If anything, I was like, it kind of made me like more invested because I was like, okay, how is he going to get to that point?
Yeah. And the build up to it is fantastic with all the meetings with Hector. Hector never looking him in the eye until that ending.
Yes.
They just build to it so perfectly.
Yeah. I like it a lot. And yeah, I mean that's all I had for notes about the kind of Western allusions in this season.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's about all the themes I had written down. Shall we get into favorite episodes?
Let's do it.
All right. Would you like to do the honor? Should we go every other? How we want to do this?
I picked 6, but
Okay.
I'll yeah, we'll just go every other, and I'll go from my least to my best.
Why don't you kick us off with your least favorite episode?
Well, I gave. I'll say it's not my. I'll just pick 5, but the one that I'll give an honorable mention to is Box Cutter because of the killing of Victor. I was talking about loving gore earlier, and like I do, and I love when gore is fun. I love when gore is scary. I love when gore is ugly, but I really really love it when it's emotionally effective, and when Gus kills Victor, it's bone chilling, especially when he just takes off everything. Well, get back to work. Like, goodness gracious. Bryan Cranston's daughter fainted during the screening of that episode. Yeah, they had to stop the screening and like call in a doctor and stuff. Yeah, it's really bloody. It's really messy, and it's when you see other people slit throats in action movies, it's done so like haphazardly and like kind of a whatever way to kill someone. But here it's ugly, it's gross, and it's terrifying. And I think it's great. But for my number 5, I'll give it to let's see. Shit. I'll give it to Crawl Space. I do think Walt's breakdown is absolute gold. I do think the payoff with Ted is a great holy shit moment. I do think the Gus firing Walt is a beautiful scene. It's the best shot of the series so far. And crashing with Hank in the car, Gus gloating at Hector. Yeah, it's just chock full of good moments, and it's a great build up to the kind of 1-2 punch of 12 and 13. I love episode 11. Yeah.
Yeah. Looking at my list, I realized that I also had 6, so I'll narrow it down to a 5 and an honorable mention. And I have a feeling we might have the same 5. Because my honorable mention would be Box Cutter as well. It carries the momentum super well after the last episode of the last season.
Yes.
That's fantastic. You get some cool backstory on Gale being the reason Walt even got this job, which is cool. You get obviously Victor's death is great, but even Victor trying to stay alive by cooking meth before is fantastic. Gus holding his head while he bleeds out and like physically being like, no, fucking get here, like watch this shit is intense. That whole scene is one of my favorites of the whole season. That alone would be enough. But also I like the scene of Skylar hiring the locksmith and doing her fake panic attack shit again. That shit's tight too. I also had Crawl Space on my list, so I'll just talk about that too. Great fucking episode. I love it a lot. You get, like you said, that Joker scene of him and the camera just moving up out of the crawl space and above it is insane. It's so good. One of my favorite shots of the whole series. I love it. It's a insanely well acted. Even Skylar's reactions to it is super well done. Marie freaking out on the phone while he's maniacally laughing in the background is fucking bone chilling.
Yeah.
It's super good. I love it a lot. But even his like whole panic leading up to that, like him going to Saul's office, all that shit is fantastic. Gus firing Walt in that cloud long take that we mentioned is great. You get Huel and Bill Burr threatening Ted in this episode. You get the car crash to avoid going to the place where there's a meth lab. You get Skylar telling off Ted like the little punk ass bitch he is. It's great. It's a fantastic episode.
I'll talk about Salud next. I think episode 10 is brilliant. I think all the Mexico sequences are great. You know, I think it's just really satisfying before all the shit goes down to see Jesse prove himself to be like finally as like his own outlaw, and to kind of see Gus triumphant as well, you know, because you're afraid of Gus after episode 1 of this season, but at the same time, you know, like I just know just from growing up hearing stories and watching all these movies about how evil the cartels are and what they've done to that country. And so seeing Gus kill all of them in one stroke is just really, really satisfying and interesting. Yeah. I love that he also is willing to put his own body on the line.
The risk he takes doing it is insane too.
Yeah. I think, and I love the Walt and Walt Jr. scene. I mentioned it before, but this is I think the first time we get to hear about Walt's own father and his own experiences with him and kind of why those daddy issues played out and made him the man that he is today, and kind of given him the fears that he has. And you know, I complained a lot about season 3 being super Walt Jr. light or super light on the Walt Jr. content, but I like this scene especially. I think it's a good pairing.
Yeah, that one actually narrowly missed my list. So I'm glad you mentioned it because it's a fantastic episode.
Yes.
Plus, I feel like every show with a young actor has like this season where the young actor looks completely different and now he's hit puberty. This is that one because he's got like a crazy jawline all of a sudden. It's great moments between them, and it's a fantastic episode. In its place, however, I put Problem Dog. We've mentioned it a lot. It's a fantastic episode. Jesse's PTSD while playing Rage is fantastically executed. Seeing the flashbacks of Gale is intense and it's heartbreaking to watch. Walt's joyride is badass. Not as badass as a certain dubstep montage, But but it's cool as fuck. The cartel negotiations are super tight. The rehab scene kind of makes this episode for me.
Mhm.
Hank's reveal that Gus's fingerprints are on the cup. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a lot of good stuff in this one.
Yes.
Even Skylar's reaction to how much money Walter make is great too.
Mhm.
Just a fantastic episode.
Yeah, I also had Problem Dog on my list.
Mm.
I agree with everything that Jared said. A meeting with cinematic gold, and on top of everything that you said, the movie kind of, or the show opens up the world even more by introducing Madrigal.
Yeah.
And so, and I like that they're able to do all of that so efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
You're next.
Yeah, it's my turn. It's a confusing way to do this.
Yes. Sorry.
The next episode, Hermanos, another great fucking episode.
Okay.
You have some great flashbacks with this one. Walt planting the bug for Hank and like his fear of doing so is fantastic. The scene where he walks and he's like, "I swear I didn't do it," and Gus is like, "Do it." It's fantastic. It's great. The Gus interrogation with the DEA is fantastic because you see how calm and collected and methodical Gus is, and he's always got an answer for everything
Yeah.
because he's a careful motherfucker. So like that part's fucking fantastic. You get a lot of Hector being an asshole in that flashback too, which I like. Like him pissing in the pool. He's like, "Fucking tell on me, I dare you." He's just such a little twerp, and I love it. Yeah, it's just a lot of good stuff. It's probably on the lower end of this list for me, but I still like it a lot.
Yeah. I agree. It's a great episode. That was the one that missed my list. So I'm glad you mentioned it. I do love that Gus flashback, and I guess spoiler alert for season 5. But the close up on Gus with his face to the ground foreshadows Walt's close up in Ozymandias in season 5. So bonus points.
Absolutely, and I have a feeling what our last 2 episodes are going to be.
Is it 12 and 13?
It's 12 and 13.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just talk about both then.
Yeah,
the spin the gun scene we mentioned before. Jesse immediately going into protector mode when Brock is threatened, and when Walt's family, his shock when Walt's family was like, "What? I thought Gus was a stand-up guy. Why would he do that?" I love that. I love that he gets so close to killing Walt. I was like, it could have been so much. His life would have been so much better if he just did that. But no. I love the other so close with the car bomb. Like of course that would have been better.
Going up to the parking garage window and be like, "Something's up here."
Yeah, dude, it's so good. And I also love the idea of Saul running away. I think it's interesting because we don't learn until later on that he's not just running out of fear of Gus. He's running out of guilt over what happened to Brock. Yeah. And because he gave Walt the means to do so, but to poison the kid, but didn't, but was kind of unknowing about it. I kind of like that about it, that he actually has a line that doesn't benefit with of all the things that he would do to make a buck. He feels that, and I like that it pays off then. I love and of course I love Face Off. It's our first death from the main cast, and it does not disappoint at all. We've had the bell as kind of this really awesome musical cue, this really awesome way of communicating since season 2, and and having it be the thing that triggers the death of the villain of the antagonist is really, really amazing.
the I also really love, especially in these last 2 episodes, Walt's makeup. I love when the protagonist looks beat up and they have like he's got a bandage on his face. It just looks so cool and so interesting. And I hate him so much in these last 2 episodes. Like this really heartfelt and really interestingly shot scene of him wearing this lime green shirt and shaking Jesse's hand for what feels like the first time in forever. And it's the first time they're shaking hands as equals, and he's acknowledging Jesse as like, yeah, thanks, partner. Even though he's lying to Jesse, he's like, really, I actually manipulated you because of all this Lily of the Valley shit.
Surprise, surprise.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah, both fucking excellent episodes. The spinning the gun, classic, subtle, but looking back, it's amazingly done. The tenseness of searching Gus's laundromat is fantastic. You finally see Steve Gomez flex his detective chops after being pretty underutilized for a lot of this series. It's great to see him kind of come into his own there. Jesse confronting Walt about Brock is insane and so suspenseful. And the audience genuinely doesn't know who's right, which is something that's like kind of rare for this show, and it feels so good. Like you're like, finally, I don't know something that like a character knows. And it's delightful. The parking garage attempted murders, fantastic as well. Just a great scene. You get a lot of the payoffs of the Jesse manipulation, obviously revolving around Brock's poisoning. Yeah, incredible. Fantastic fucking episode. And they carry it through Face Off beautifully. There's no way watching 12 you're not immediately wanting to watch 13. There's just no shot that you're pausing that and stopping what you're doing. Jesse's interrogation about the poisoning, the detectives are so, but Jesse kills it.
Absolutely.
He's been there before, and like you feel it in the character that he's got like a confidence about it. He's like, I know how to get out of this situation, but it's still a scary one to be in the first place. And it comes at a moment that's inopportune on so many levels for every character. That's fantastic. Walt even risking his neighbor's life to check the house is awesome.
I forgot about that.
It's super smart, and you're like, oh, this poor fucking woman's about to get shot immediately. But it's great. Like, he doesn't even know her name and number. He has to like look her up to find out who she is, because she's just another pawn in this game. It's so good, and it's so emblematic of who Walt has become up to this point. He officially doesn't give a shit about anybody else's life, and I love it. He's a villain.
Yes.
Hector telling Hank to fuck off when he calls him all the way to the DEA. His last words to Hank, telling him to suck it and to fuck off, is great. It's fantastic. It's satisfying, but it also serves a purpose within the plot to get Gus to go kill Hector for being a snitch, but Hector stays true to himself, and he didn't. It's just a genius way to do it. I love it a lot. And obviously Gus's death and the slow push on the Lily of the Valley are two of the best shots in the whole thing, two of the best reveals in the whole series. It's fantastic. I love it a lot. I love this show, and I love this season.
Awesome possum.
Yeah.
I want to show the whole thing to my family for sure, because they haven't seen it either. I think
they haven't?
Yeah.
Oof.
So
it's fun to watch with like people who haven't seen it too, because you're like, you see the first mention of rice, and you're like, oh fuck, oh shit, yeah. Just small things like that is you just see the payoff before, and you see how much they tie into every season. Everything reflects back so well. It's just such a cohesive show, and I think a lot of that's due to the length. Like, it's not, you don't need 17 seasons to tell this story.
Right.
Do it 5, do it effectively, do it well, and you're golden. Everything's gonna hit. And they just found a winning formula for it. Pun
Yeah.
intended.
It's so good. I remember watching the behind the scenes of season 1, and Vince Gilligan was like, hopefully we get to see this over 40 or 50 episodes. And then they got 62 episodes. I was like, oh, cool. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super tight. Where can the people find us? What should they do now?
Ooh. You guys should
Plug
follow
time.
us. You guys should follow us. You guys should watch the YouTube, man. This is fun.
Yeah,
this is fun to
look. You wouldn't get that. You don't know what we just did.
No, yeah. My lighting changed 3 times in this episode.
Yeah, you saw his shirtless brother for like 5 seconds. Tag it in the comments below. Timestamp that shit.
Yep, exactly.
We'll send. Actually, if you timestamp that, we'll send you something random in the mail. You win a prize if you're the first person to timestamp Jared's shirtless brother.
It'll be just the bonus features of the Devil's Rejects.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's gonna be that and a used tissue.
No, but yeah, we got the link
we'll
tree.
Send you something. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. We got our link tree to all of our socials in the description of this video or this podcast, whatever you're watching this on. So please stay caught up with us because we got some fun stuff coming down the pipeline. Mm-hmm. I hope all of you have a beautiful day. Don't sell meth, and be kind. Be kind.
Yeah.
Bye. We love you. I was seeing if you had anything else to say.
Fuck no.
All right. Goodbye. We love you. Bye.
See you.